What is the connection between the solar flash ascension event, the alien Anunnaki connection to human hybrids? How do these come together? What is the truth? What is the real cause of human evolution on planet Earth? I will explain it to you. Hello, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. This is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Please do me a favor before we get into this. Subscribe to this channel. You're going to want to hear things that are coming up very soon. Of course, like, comment, all those things so we can get this channel further up in the YouTube algorithm. And of course, I do have a channel on Rumble. Go there, thunderwizard.com Rumble channel. You can subscribe there as well. All right, so what is this connection that is the solar flash event, which is currently happening? We are in the beginning stages of what's really a solar wave event where you have continuous solar waves hitting the Earth. It's not an instantaneous solar flash. What is the connection between that and the teaching that human beings were actually manipulated to evolve as a result of alien Anunnaki interaction with human beings? Is there a connection? So I'm here to tell you that what people nowadays are calling conspiracy theories, even if some of these beliefs are completely unfounded and turn out to be wrong in all kinds of ways, the truth is that people's intuition, they're intuiting something. And what happens is when we intuit something and we don't know, we don't have real world proof, evidence, scientific fact, or experience. We just have this intuition about something. What we tend to do as humans is we tend to look for something that will explain what we feel. That is the case here. So if you have studied or learned that what happened is that, hundreds of thousands of years ago, or perhaps millions of years ago, alien travelers from other worlds came to Earth and had a direct impact on actually manipulating the DNA of humans so that humans have evolved to what they are now. And of course, there's all kinds of other things associated with that, which I'm not going to get into. But if you believe that, if you've been following that, if you hear that, if you've watched those movies or those television programs where they say alien Anunnaki people came and used their powers of technology to create human beings to change their DNA. If the feeling that you have is that something outside of just 3D Earth came and influenced the evolution of human beings, I'm going to say you're absolutely correct. Now, let's get into where this came from. So if you're my age or older, you can remember when this belief first started being widely taught. And it was a belief that exploded onto the media stage. And almost overnight there was books that were flooding the bookstores, and there were all kinds of programs. I can remember in the 70s, I can't remember the name of it, Ancient Astronauts or something like that. There was a movie that came out, there was all kinds of things, and that just kept on increasing through the decades. And now it is just accepted. In fact, people don't even know the source of where this belief came from. I can't tell you how many times I've turned on some kind of program and whether it's YouTube or television or whatever, and without any explanation, you'll hear the narrator just launch into, many years ago, Anunnaki aliens came to Earth, and there's no, I mean, I go, what do you mean? That you just throw that out there? Explain it to me. Where does this belief come from, et cetera, et cetera? Well, I'm going to tell you where it came from. So there was a man named Zecharia Sitchin. You can look him up. Zecharia Sitchin. Sitchin is his last name. He emerged in the 70s. I remember this. And he started writing these books. And what he claimed was that he was able to truly interpret these Anunnaki writings. And the truth is that the writings of the Sumerians, which is where the Anunnakis come from Sumerian legend, these scriptures have been decoded long before Zecharia Sitchin came along. But what Zecharia Sitchin said was that he alone had uncovered the true interpretation of these writings. So you have to start with that assumption. Again, this isn't told to you. This is just an assumption that is underneath all of this. So you have to buy into the assumption that Zecharia Sitchin is decoding the actual writings of the Sumerian mythology. And he's saying that it's not mythology, that it's actually historical, they're writing down historical events. So those are all assumptions. Now, if your intuition is telling you that something beyond what we understand has been influencing human evolution, something alien, something outside of our 3D world has been influencing, if you feel like there's an intelligence behind this and you have this suspicion, then you're going to go ahead and just accept that, because you need to feel that your intuitions are correct. So I'm here to tell you that your intuitions can be correct, that there is some intelligence that has nothing to do with modern day monotheist religion, but there's some extraterrestrial intelligence that is somehow involved in coming in and deliberately shifting the DNA within human beings to create a specific evolutionary event. That can be true. But when you don't know any better, this is why people, bought into the Bible for so long, because they didn't know anybody. They had an intuition that there was something that we could call God, or, those kinds of things. But the truth is that Zecharia Sitchin was no scholar, and he's been debunked many, many, many times. His translations have been debunked many times, and if you put any effort into researching it, you can find out that he didn't know what he was talking about. But the true part of it is that he was right, that something extraterrestrial has, throughout the history of planet Earth, been involved in changing human DNA. Now, we all know that radiation changes DNA. I mean, that's why we avoid radiation, because it has damaging effects to the DNA. It mutates the DNA in bad ways. But what if some consciousness had the ability to know how to use radiation to affect the DNA so that human beings would evolve? Listen, this is Spider-Man, this is the Hulk, same idea. High levels of gamma radiation affect the DNA, and the next thing you know, you have superpowers. So we sense that this is a reality because it comes up in our modern day mythology, which is the superhero comics, and it comes up in trying to understand, because the other thing that's very appealing about the Anunnaki explanation for human beings shifting is that the religious dogma we've been fed, we feel doesn't feel right. It doesn't work. There's something else. The feeling that you have that you've been conditioned to believe false things. This is why people, this is what drives people into flat earth. This is what drives people into all kinds of beliefs. Their intuition is telling them that, there's some authorities that are telling us false things. I can feel it. I can feel that something different from this idea of God creating the earth and creating human beings in one day. There's something else going on. That there was some intelligence, powerful intelligence that came and shifted DNA. And on top of that, there's a feeling that there is something I can't trust about authoritative information. Now, what ends up happening is that those feelings, which haven't been proven in any way, those feelings are overwhelming, and then you have your own personal issues. They all get conflated together in this giant big sticky ball. And then somebody comes along and says, NASA is lying to you, the earth is flat. And then you go, I knew it, I've been lied to. Or you have this feeling that, listen, religion doesn't explain it. I have this feeling that, number one, I'm being lied to by some kind of authoritarian figures. And on top of that, I have the feeling that human beings' evolution has been consciously manipulated, and all of a sudden the Anunnaki stuff comes up. Well, it's been around for so many years. There's so many, I've watched Ancient Aliens my whole life, or I've read all those books, and Ancient Astronauts, and so this has to be true. And what ends up happening is that these feelings that you have, these intuitions are justified, and then you grab onto it. And it gives you a sense of freedom. It lets you realize you're not crazy, you're not wrong. You have this desire to find out the truth, even though you've been told a bunch of other things by religion and science and media. And so when somebody comes along and says, okay, so this Anunnaki stuff is actually not true. What happened is this Zecharia Sitchin guy came along and he manipulated that and then said that he had the only answer, and the story that he tells you actually clicks off a bunch of buttons for you. And this is very common with people, and I said this when I had my turnaround, my red pill moment, if you want to call it that. When I had my turnaround in September of 2021, I came on to this channel and I said, I've been wrong about a bunch of things, and I would say, I was wrong for the right reasons, and you guys were right, and many of you were right for the wrong reasons. What I meant by that is that people have feelings and intuitions and their own internal, feelings of being manipulated, and without double checking it, they just buy into whatever justifies their feelings, and it could be a conflation. So a conflation is when you have something that's true and something that's not true, and they seem the same, and you put them together, and they're two separate things. And you put them together, and then you have this one thing that is only partially true. But the part of it that makes it false actually becomes the whole underpinning of it, and that one part of it that's false actually makes the whole thing false. So we have to pull apart our conflations, which means we have to take a look at our fears, we have to take a look at our assumptions, we have to take a look at our emotional attachments to certain things, and be willing to find the truth within that. And that means not being desperate to, find the one thing that makes you feel safe. You're being lied to. I understand it's challenging. But I'm here to clear all this up for you. So, what is the connection between the solar flash and the Anunnaki alien-human hybrid idea that is where human beings evolve? Now, in order to understand this, we need to, first off, the Anunnaki stories are not historical stories about aliens coming to Earth. When you read those mythologies in their correct translations, you have mythology like any other religious mythology in the world. And that's all it is. It's talking about the gods creating the earth. It's anthropomorphizing gods, the The Romans did it, the Greeks did it, the Vedics did it, but Vedic religion is still around, so we know we're not talking about literal human beings. We're talking about, avatars and all of that, and there's truth wrapped up in symbolism, and that's what was happening with the story of the Anunnaki. So I'm giving you permission to drop that, but I'm giving you permission to hold on to the feeling that you have that there's some extraterrestrial intelligence that comes to Earth to influence human beings' evolution. Now, the other assumption about the Zecharia Sitchin Anunnaki story, which goes along, by the way, with the biblical Garden of Eden narrative, which is why people were so quick to buy into it, because even though consciously they reject the Bible, they still are being influenced by this idea of an evil overlord. The serpent in the garden, Satan. So people have this programmed into them, and so they look for that unconsciously. So that is the assumption behind the Anunnaki, is that there's these evil, reptilian, alien beings who have higher technology, and they might even have superpowers, and they come to Earth and they use their technology to manipulate humans, to enslave them. So this is what's helpful for people to justify, because they feel enslaved. So if you feel enslaved and somebody comes along with this explanation, then you buy into it. But I'm here to tell you that assumption is inaccurate. So the assumption that the powers that be that are seeking to shift human beings' evolution are not predatory or evil. But you do live in a world where you do have human beings who have a great deal of power and influence and are seeking, every empire in the world, the Roman Empire, the Sumerian Empire, the Akkadian Empire, depending on who you are, you could say it was, the United States during the occupation of the North American continent, here in Australia. I mean, you can find this everywhere. But it's human beings that are doing this. It's human beings that are doing it. It's not extraterrestrial or spiritual powers. There, by the way, is a difference between 3D aliens who abduct, that is a real thing, and actual extraterrestrials who come here from other solar systems. Extraterrestrials do not abduct, aliens do, but aliens are from Earth. It's a whole other subject. I can't even talk about it on YouTube. So, what is the truth? The truth is that there is a consciousness behind the evolution. We are going through an evolutionary period right now. Human beings are in the infancy of a massive, very quick evolutionary jump. And if you look in the historical record, you will see that evolution is not a slow progression. It always goes in big jumps. So the question is, what causes that? Well, we know some of them, like, big giant asteroids hitting the Earth, that makes sense. But when it comes to things like human beings and Neanderthals disappearing, what causes that? There was no reason for that, because human beings were pretty much doing the same thing to survive as Neanderthals. And so humans continued to live the same way that Neanderthals lived for thousands and thousands of years, tens of thousands of years after the last Neanderthal died out. So it couldn't have been some change. Neanderthals were perfectly capable of traveling and moving around. They obviously did that, or they wouldn't have covered the globe, which they did. So the Denisovans, the Neanderthals, they died out. Why is that? Well, there's evidence now saying that there was a solar event like we're having now, a solar maximum event where there were solar storms, coronal mass ejections that were sending lots of solar radiation, high vibrational solar radiation to Earth, combined with what's called an incursion event, which is where the magnetic field in the Earth weakens. You have the combination of that, you're getting a lot of solar radiation hitting the Earth. And so now we're coming to realize that something about that shifted the DNA. Now, why would solar radiation pick on the DNA of Neanderthals and wipe them out, and pick on the DNA of human beings and have them evolve and become the dominant human species on the planet? The answer to that is similar to this idea that extraterrestrials came and did it, except that you need to change your understanding of the cosmos. The cosmos is not this empty place where there are beings who sort of manifested out of nowhere and they're all these predatory, evil, killing each other. If you take your understanding of 3D reality, which is that's what the animal life is like here, and the human life, and you project it out there like every scientist does, well, what would we do if we found a new a planet with lesser developed humans? We'd colonize them and we'd use them and we'd predate on them and feed them and enslave them. So that's obviously what extraterrestrials are going to do to us. But that's assuming that extraterrestrials live in the same dimension that we do. This third dimension, as the Hopis called it, is the dimension of the animal. And human beings act like animals. Survival of the fittest, you're either killing it, screwing it, eating it, or running away from it. And that's how we treat each other. That's how we interact with animals. And so they've said that we will enter a new phase where we will go from the age of the animal to the age of the human being. Now, the assumption that we've had is that the rest of the cosmos is like our reality isn't proven. It's just an assumption. But what if the truth is the opposite? The opposite is that the cosmos is filled with infinite numbers of intelligent beings who have evolved to higher levels of existence, and in higher dimensions, the vibrations of anger, fear, predation, all the things, violence, all the things that make 3D life, living whether you're a human or an animal, really difficult, that doesn't exist in higher dimensions. So what would be the motive for extraterrestrials to change the DNA of humans? The motivation would be that they want to help us shift out of this very damaging three-dimensional reality, this very difficult, this very painful, animalistic three-dimensional reality. Now, go beyond that, bring in the idea of solar radiation. So this isn't just some event. Oh, there was some event that happened, like when we think of the dinosaurs, there was a meteor that crashed into the Earth, and we know that, and that's, just some, meteors are flying all around, and if that hadn't happened, the dinosaurs would still be here. So that's not how evolution works, because the sun is a conscious being. The Earth is a conscious being. Extraterrestrials and higher level beings that go beyond what we can imagine. All of these are conscious beings, and what happens when you leave the third dimension is you're no longer isolated inside the three-dimensional prison matrix. You're now in a different matrix where it is, we can call it a conscious ecosystem, where there's consciousness interwoven with each other. And so instead of, when you see a new species, you don't get scared because you don't understand them. You immediately have this connection with them. And even though you've never seen that species before, your consciousness, the web of consciousness, connects you to that. So what's going on is black holes also have consciousness. Planets have consciousness. Stars have consciousness. What is happening is that all of these beings who are filled with consciousness have come to see that human beings are starting to evolve. Their consciousness has come to a tipping point where either their brain will take over and they will destroy themselves with primitive destructive technology like nuclear weapons. By the way, every time you detonate a nuclear weapon, you actually destroy the molecular structure in multiple dimensions. So they have a personal stake in us wanting to evolve beyond that. But there's also the understanding that they love us. They love us, and now we've gotten to the place where we are able to shift past that. So, the sun, the earth, the black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, other planets in our solar system, as well as other solar systems and other consciousnesses in other solar systems, as well as all of the guiding consciousness, everything we've been told about angels and spirit guides, elves, fairies, those are all beings in other dimensions. Those beings as well, they're all coming together now to shift us to a higher dimension. So the instinct you have that extraterrestrials changed our DNA, that was true. Because there was an event, an evolutionary event where humans shifted above Neanderthals. And it happened during a solar event, as we're having now, and an incursion event, like we're happening now. But this isn't random. This is something that is planned, and there is a lot of meditative energy from all of the conscious beings in the universe that are putting their energies to influence the sun, to influence the radiation, to influence all of these things so that we will evolve to the next level. So, people who have been coming up with these theories, like Zecharia Sitchin, clearly manipulating, the texts for whatever his reasons are, and people wanting to buy into it, is because their instincts are true, but they're also conflating their real world 3D experience of being isolated and manipulated and enslaved and abused and devalued. They're conflating their 3D experience with their intuition, which is telling them that forces from outside of our planet and our dimension are seeking to influence us. But in order for us to make that shift, to shift up to the next level where we become like these beings of light, and we get to be part of an interstellar, intergalactic, as well as transdimensional society filled with all of these different conscious beings of light, and for our technology to take off as well as our spiritual powers to really explode, we have to choose. But this is, the only time that it's going to happen. And so the real question is, will we as individuals go the way of the Neanderthal, who, let's just assume for argument's sake, I don't know if this is true, but let's just assume they didn't have the ability to choose to shift up, or they didn't want to, they didn't have the ability, they didn't want to leave their version of 3D. Are we going to go the way of the Neanderthal, or are we going to shift up? Those are our two choices. So this is a conscious evolution, and everything in the universe is giving us what we need. And it is true, either we will have an extinction event, an extinction level event brought on by human beings' greed and fear and using things like nuclear weapons and other kinds of technologies that you and I aren't even aware of yet. Or are we going to listen to this higher vibrational energy that is flipping on switches in our DNA, and are we going to relax into it, drop our fears, trust that we are part of a loving universe, not a predatory universe, not an empty predatory universe, but a universe that is filled with infinite numbers of beings of light that go up, beyond what we could even begin to imagine. And all of these beings, because they are not in the third dimension, all of them are filled with nothing but love and well-wishing for you. And if we ask for their help, they will continue to, like the Anunnaki, they will come in and help us evolve out of it. But unlike the Anunnaki story, they won't enslave us and use us for food or like the Matrix. So you have to, in order to make this shift, you're going to have to drop your fears. You're going to have to make the difference between how your parents treated you, how society has treated you, how religion has treated you, and separate that and not project that onto our higher dimensional extraterrestrial brothers and sisters and all of the beings above that, and Mother Earth and Mother Sun and all of the planets that are converging now to help us. Specifically right now, Jupiter is really coming to our defense. You're going to see a lot of things are going to shift because of the planet Jupiter coming to help us. So that's a lot of information to unpack on you. The most powerful thing you can do, besides making the decision that you're going to trust the universe, then you need to take action on that by doing energy practices which will allow your body to shift and allow you to have the energy to face the darkness within you and overcome that. This is what the Warrior 90-Day Challenge is. Go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. It's the price of a video game. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. You're only subscribing for 1 month at a time. You play the videos, follow my instructions to the letter. You'll see what happens. You can also do the free stuff on the channel. There's the Hool Breath, the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. There's the Heaven Earth Meditation Qigong, all of the other Qigong, the rune stuff that I teach. And there is the free interdimensional meditations on this channel, guided meditations. If you decide you want to go deeper than that, you can go to the interdimensional meditation course, which you will have access to if you subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. My books, Michael William Denny, D-E-N-N-E-Y, michaelwilliamdenny.com. You'll find all of my books there, including Interdimensional Revolution, which you need to read, as well as Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. Read those books because I am giving you information that comes directly from these extraterrestrial, higher dimensional beings who have said that this is the first time in human history where you can interact directly with them. I'm in communication with them every day. You can also communicate with them, and the amount of power and love that they give you is unbelievable. Wipes out lifetimes of karma. This is where the shift is. It's not an incremental shift, it is a huge one. You'll experience it for yourself, and if enough people make that decision, the shift will be final. We create our destiny. All right, that's a lot of information to pack into one video. So go and subscribe and like, comment. Subscribe to the Thunder Wizard on Rumble as well, thunderwizard.com, and watch my video about the Jupiter transit and learn this mantra. You can be doing that right now. That's it, my friends. Thank you so much. I hope this has been helpful for you. And also, we have the 6-phase ascension apprenticeship, which is a limited number of slots, and this is for people who are really serious or are really desperate. You're having a really hard time ascending, or you're really serious about ascending. I'm going to teach you 6 very important techniques and methods that you will need to know, which can help free you so that you can instantly, right here and now, free yourself from this, this prison matrix planet that we're in. Okay? So that's it for me, guys. By the time this video comes up, I will already be on a short travel trip, and then I'll be back with more videos. But please leave your comments and your questions. Subscribe, like, share these videos on your Facebook, your Twitter, embed them on there, let people know about it. That's it for me. I wish you guys all the best. I will see you all very soon. Please take care.